Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Very good news, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, coming from Syria. And in this last video on this issue, I'm gonna talk about what is our duty as Muslims. This is not like a national issue. This is like, oh, just Syrian, let Syrian just handle this. Let Syrian just do. This is a Muslim issue, right? And subhanallah, some people might say, like, come on guys, just sit down and work on your Quran, work on your prayer, just work on your religion, don't worry about politics is dirty, etc., etc. And this is honestly the words of someone who doesn't know the religion well. You know, caring about Muslims, that's a main part of the religion, tamam, a main part of the Muslim unity and brotherhood, right? We all know the hadith, subhanallah, but many of us, we don't practice that hadith. When the Prophet ﷺ said, the example the example of the Muslims, right? The example of the believers and their fraternity and their love and their cooperation is like one body. If part of that body feels pain, then the rest of the body cooperate with fever and lack of sleep. So we must care about our brothers and sisters in Gaza, in Palestine, in Syria, in China, in Afghanistan, everywhere, especially when we heard and we know that there has been massacres. Hundreds of thousands of Syrians have been killed by the Syrian regime. Tens of thousands tortured to death in his presence, right? We know hundreds drowned in the ocean while they were trying to flee Syria to Europe. These are videos we see, and one video, this young Kurdish boy that was in the news for a few years ago, and like that, like him, hundreds of people and families drowned, right? Thousands of people until now, we don't know anything about them. We don't know if they're alive, if they're not, and my brother is one of them, right? So we have to support our brothers and sisters in the ways that are possible, that are legal for us. So very briefly, now the situation in Syria, inshallah, the rebels going close and close. Now they are about to enter Homs, one of the major Syrian cities that has a big supporter, or big supporters, or big number of supporters of the regime, because they're from the Alawite sect. And subhanallah, this Alawite sect, a lot of them, they are just like a victim of the crimes of this regime, because he used them just to satisfy his own desires and just to stay in authority. And we didn't have a problem with them. Me in Damascus, I lived in Damascus all of my life. We had Alawite neighbors, and we had good relations, and we visit them, they visit us. We don't have issues, right? So we don't have issues with the Alawites or the Kurds or the any sect or any race or ethnicity, let's say, or we all a human race, right? So, but the problem is with those who support the regime in its crimes, even if they are Sunnis, right? Some of our relatives, they are with the regime and we're against them and we don't support them, and they will be brought to account. They will be brought to court. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. They'll be brought to court for the crimes they committed. So that is clear. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now the two operations, the deterrence of aggression operation, and Fajr al-Hurriya operation, which is the dawn of freedom operation, which also working together with the other operations. So all of the opposition forces, alhamdulillah, now all of the opposition forces in Syria working together to liberate Syria from this regime and the terrorist militias that have been helping him, and the Russian occupation and the Russian forces that have been supporting him with all of the airplanes and all of the internationally forbidden weapons that they have been using, and they have been trying. They have made Syria like a lab for their experiments. They have made Syria like a land just to try their horrible, evil weapons. Right? That's what Russia has been doing in these past 10 or so years. Our role and our duty as Muslims and as people of conscience everywhere is to call our representatives, wherever you are in any country, call your representatives and ask them to support the will of the Free Syrian people. To support the will of the Free Syrian people has been very manifestly clear since 2011, but the world wanted to reactivate and to give life again to this brutal terrorist regime, but they failed and they will fail. So they have to support the free will of the Syrian people and stop wasting time and telling us we have to resort to peace, etc. The Syrian opposition, they resorted to peace and they accepted, but the regime and Russia, they're using this just as a pretext to keep wasting time and to take more land and to make the Syrian people more poor and more needy and more miserable in their life. Imagine when I was in Syria in 2011, the dollar was 50 Syrian pounds. 50 Syrian pounds. Now it's about 15,000 Syrian pounds. 15,000 Syrian pounds. Imagine. The life is unbearable. We pay rent for my family in Syria, 3 million Syrian pounds a month just for rent. With these 3 million in 2011, you could buy like a very big and nice house. Imagine the people in Syria, they're lining for bread, for fuel, for all the necessity, the basic, no electricity. I have my family in Syria, and even I'm talking now and I'm afraid about them because of this brutal regime. No electricity, no water. It comes very, very little electricity and stuff. So it's very miserable. So inshallah ta'ala, with the liberation of Syria from this brutal regime, inshallah things will be much better. And we started seeing right away in Aleppo how the situation got better right away. The help came from Idlib, from the other liberated Syrian parts of the country. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, our role, as I mentioned, we have to, especially in the US, especially again, as I mentioned about Palestine, the green light for the crimes of the Zionists in Palestine is from here, from the US. So we must continue. We're not going to forget Gaza. And some people say, oh, these Syrian opposition forces, they are supported by Israel. They are supported. They don't know. You shouldn't speak if you don't know. The two flags that were raised and rolled down on the castle of Aleppo when it was liberated this week was the Syrian opposition or the Free Syrian flag and the Palestine flag. And go see the videos for that. The reason that Israel and America were not supporting the Syrian opposition is that they know very well that the Assad regime is the best regime to protect the Zionists, while the Sunni government that will dominate in Syria, inshallah soon, they know is not going to be really friends with the Zionists, is not going to accept Palestine to continue to be bombed and children and women to continue to be killed. It will not accept the Golan Heights to continue to be under the Israeli occupation. They know that very well. That is why they have not been supporting the change of the regime. But now I think because the Zionists are fed up and America are fed up with the Iranian and Lebanese militias that made Syria like a farm for their militias. They are fed up with this, and they are, because their so-called threatening the so-called Israeli national security. So they decided, okay, and since we're not able to stop those rebels, okay, then let it be. Let it be, and we are watching carefully. And there are news yesterday that the Zionists, they bombed a place in Syria which was liberated by the opposition forces, because they said we're afraid that those weapons will fall in the hands of the Syrian opposition forces. So briefly, call your reps, ask them to support the will of the free Syrian people, support the will of the free Syrian people, support sit down, sit down, support the will of the free Syrian people, support the return of all of the refugees from all cities, from all countries in the world, to return to their stolen homes and towns in Syria. And also, most importantly, ask the US government and US Congress people to ask them to stop supporting the terrorist Kurdish groups, that have been killing the Arabs and the Kurds who are against them in many parts of Syria. Now they control about 25% of Syria, east of the Euphrates and northeast of the Euphrates. Ask them and let them support the Free Syrian Army, the Free Syrian opposition, and let those Kurds who really want to live under one Syria, let them come and join the coalition of the opposition forces, and let them stop their crimes against the Syrian people, including the Kurds and the Arabs. The terrorist Kurdish groups like PKK and PYD, they have been committing massacres, and we know they are designated as terrorist groups by many countries in the world, right? And America started and supported what's called Democratic Syrian Forces, or FSD or SDF, the so-called Syrian Democratic Forces. Those forces, supported by the US, they claimed, the US and other countries, they claimed they're supporting them because they were fighting ISIS. And alhamdulillah, Allah helped us to get rid of ISIS, and the Free Syrian Army of the greatest forces that helped defeat ISIS and finish ISIS in Syria. And alhamdulillah, it ended in Syria and in Iraq as well. So now those so-called SDF, they controlled a big part of Syria under that pretext, and they're deporting the Arab population from some of the towns in Syria, and that's documented and recorded by UN organizations. So we have to know that very well, and we have to ask America to stop supporting those terrorist Kurdish groups and let them come under the united Syrian government if they really want to live under one Syria, and if they really want to live in peace and harmony with the other components of the Syrian fabric, as they say. So that's briefly my message, that be with the oppressed people everywhere, and share these messages. And if you are active on social media, support the efforts of the Free Syrian opposition and the Free Syrian Army, and do not promote the lies that some Western channels and some channels that are supported by the regime do not promote their lies, and try to promote the reality that is going on now in Syria, which is those forces, the opposition forces, with all of their backgrounds, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, all of them, they're rejecting violence. They are calling for united Syrian government which embraces all people of all backgrounds, of all religions. And they made clear statements, and more importantly, they have shown this in reality. They protected the Christians in Aleppo, they protected the Kurds in the places where they were in under the terrorist Kurdish militias. They after some Kurds, they told their people, those Kurdish fighters, they told their people, go, these Arabs will come and kill you. So they made them go really and leave those some big towns in the north, and then they left them and left. They left them without food, without drink, without anything, without shelter. And then those Shia groups started sending calls for help and for food, and they said our situation is miserable. And then the Free Syrian Army, the Free Syrian opposition forces, they send them buses to bring them back to their own towns. Allahu Akbar. But when those Shia militias and those Kurdish militias, when they came into some Arab towns, they literally slaughtered and killed the people and the civilians in those towns. So the difference is clear between how the Free Syrian people forces are acting and how those militias are acting. So please promote what is right and share with your friends and let them support this movement of the Free Syrian people, so that inshallah peace will prevail and the Free Syria will only be good for Palestine and for all of the Muslim world, inshallah ta'ala. The Muslim world and Palestine truly has lost that big support because in reality all of those regimes, including the Syrian regime, they have done nothing but words to the Palestinian cause. And some people now say, no, don't talk about Palestine, don't talk about this now, we just want Syria. In reality, they all know that the Free Syrian people will never accept to let down Palestine. And some people say, oh, now you're not gonna let the militias and you're not gonna let them support the Palestinians, etc., etc. The Lebanese Hezbollah, the Lebanese militia of Hezbollah, they said they just made the agreement with the Zionists. They just made it, and they separated their front from the Gaza front, right? فصل الساحات. So they said, okay, we did what we can, okay, and that's good. Good that they did some support, okay, but in reality, now they said themselves, now we cannot do more for Gaza. So it's not about the Syrian opposition. They did this agreement before the Syrians revive their revolution against the Assad regime. And alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite all Muslims and give them support and protection and help them liberate all of the occupied Muslim lands from dictators and occupiers. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad, jazakumullah khairan. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.